The internet wasn't made for kids. The reason I'm making these videos is because I work with kids and I believe the environments that we provided for them are setting them up for a really difficult adult life. Full transparency, we're trying to build something that we think could be a possible solution. Notsus.net in the background is a web browser for kids. I wanted to make these videos to see if people are aware of the problem, get my thoughts out there, overcome my avoidance of publicity, and learn from all the parents, teachers, and experts out there who believe this is something that needs to be solved. Kids are increasingly spending their time on media apps. The attention economy is coming for every second of our lives. And our children are extremely vulnerable to learning and unlearning norms and habits that will likely set them up for a sad, unfulfilled life that they don't know that they have responsibility for. Let's start talking about 3 problems that I think kids will face. So, maximum engagement. That's the goal of all these platforms. And so we've built mechanisms that really tie into our biology, or the way that we're wired to maximize our attention and our engagement with these platforms. So there's things like doom scrolling, recently invented to keep us on these apps forever. We never have to change a page and reconsider that action. We really don't have to do a new action. We're just repeating the scrolling or the watching of content action. So that's an interesting problem. There are lots of other mechanisms to maximize engagement. There are algorithms and echo chambers and things like that. We'll talk about that in the next point. But also time management is a huge issue for all of us now because we're tied to our screens with all kinds of activity in the virtual world. And so that's an opportunity cost. How else could you be using that time? And for your kids, how do you want them to use their time? How would you like them to value their time and how they use it? The second point I want to get across, or I want to talk about, is media bias and algorithmic manipulation. So the algorithms are designed to understand you, understand what you like, understand what triggers you, understand what you're going to buy, and influence your behavior. And they also influence your thoughts. You're shown things that have been mathematically mapped to engage you and make you think a certain way. My grandpa used to say that when you look at the news, you have to think about why are you seeing that news? And people are losing this skill. Alexa, stop. People are losing this skill. Polarization and extremism is a huge problem. We're really just seeing extremes on either side as they push buttons more and they maximize engagement. But I think the average person has a more empathetic perspective on a lot of issues that we never see online or rarely see online. And it's a breath of fresh air, but we're all exhausted and it's like, duh. So I think that we're seeing a false reality on the internet, and adults can discern this, or not necessarily all generations do the same type of job with it, but kids who are raised on this internet need to learn how to question what they see and be skeptical of it. It's a huge issue. And like even with things like the people who they see, who are their role models, who are they influenced by, they need to be critical of that. We all do. And again, kids are being trained in an environment that is not really conducive to providing the important mentorship and caretaking that they deserve. So the third point that I wanted to talk about is the ease of use of everything. So there's so many builds, especially with the use of AI and LLMs and other technologies. We're right at the beginning of it, and they're still quite sloppy, but all these tools are being built to make us hyper creative, and we can build fairly big ideas very, very quickly, and we can learn about things extraordinarily quickly. That makes things quite easy, and obviously kids will have a tendency to cheat and do the easiest path to success or lack of punishment that they can find when they're forced to do something, and they're forced to go to places like school and deliver on whatever the expectations are. And so making a really easy out where you can act like you understand something deeply, or you can act like you've completed something, doesn't really build a fortified adult later on. And so I think that you really have to think about that when you're online. I can make a pretty good song on Suno in about 2 minutes. I could spend an hour prompting it and maybe get a fairly good song. But I didn't really build it. I didn't craft it out of play and curiosity and trial and error and all this stuff. And so it's missing that part of invention that is so important for feeling fulfilled and for growing and investing more effort and practice and getting better at things. And so I think that that's a scary problem that that we need to train our kids against is how are you trying things yourself and being resilient, being creative, and actually learning the skill and playing with it. Like how are you with ease of use comes like false assumptions of truth. So if you search on Google now, you get an AI summary of whatever you're looking for, and it's too bad that it's not very reliable. It's like an amalgamation of most of the text that it can find on the subject, and there's a lot of like false misleading things there, and it's not very good at math or historical dates at the moment. Maybe these things will get much better over time, but you're also being fed media that's made to influence you. You're fed advertisements that are trying to sell you things, and frankly, you're not told the truth or the full story a lot. And so you need to have critical thinking. And that takes some effort and a lot of awareness and sort of like independent thinking. So that's something that we need to train back up for the next generation of kids. And it's just really important that they recognize that they own their time and their attention and their actions. They own it. It's their responsibility and it's their liberty. And so I hope that we can build new infrastructure and systems to solve some of these problems that we all face, but that we're handing down to our kids, because they end up building your life into something that's just a constant draining struggle, and you don't spend enough time with your loved ones, and all these terrible outcomes. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Those are some of the problems. In my experience teaching tech, I also teach like business and life skills, just generally teach as a good mentor, I think. Kids who have digital freedom, they're constantly distracted. They're frustrated. They're unfulfilled by the learning portion of skills development. And they want to do exciting things. They have big ambitions and goals. And I think at the beginning they believe they can do it, but they struggle to do what's required, even though they're capable of it. They just struggle to do it. You know, they get distracted. They're sort of, they've got this like addiction to something screen-based, probably in the back of their mind all the time. And they're afraid to fail, and they quit easily. And it's sad. And that's just a common experience when I get a new kid who wants to learn how to code, or wants to learn how to do 3D design or build games or make architecture, whatever it is. They want to start a business. If that kid is overexposed to media and like has complete freedom around how they spend their time online on screens, they are afraid to fail and quit easily. When a kid's first exposure to screens or early exposure to screens is like through me, we teach them a tool that's appropriate for their age and their interests, and then they play with that. And so they learn the skills and then they play with it. And they're willing to put in the work that it takes. They're enthusiastic about the journey. They're willing to be creative and actually create stuff that's complete. And they're more focused and they stay on task. And I think that they're like, human nature is sort of uncorrupted. And they get exposed to something cool that they can do. And they're used to this. And they learn the basics pretty quickly, and then they just explore. They have some time to be bored and figure something out. You know, there's nothing else to do. But for a kid that has a phone in their pocket, for example, there's always something else to do. Like there's always something there to distract them. So that's sort of like the challenge there. And I understand how easy it is for parents to give their kids screens, but I think it's really, and so you kind of have this interesting thing where if you introduce your kids to screens, but you make sure that what they're using the screens for is engaging and creative and somewhat difficult, then you don't have to sort of worry about all of these outcomes and habits in the future as much, because they're training from a young age how to stay engaged, how to solve problems, how to learn from nothing, and how to keep oneself interested. And so I think the parents that are more cautious about exposing their kids to media have made the right choice, and it's difficult to get back. Now, I think it's worth having a discussion with your kids if they're already addicted to whatever online, and be very serious with them about how this can be disruptive to their growth, and let them know that you care about them. Try and have them be part of the decision if you need to, but make sure they're hyper aware of the risks and the dangers of having all of your attention taken by something that gets to sway you and what you do, like all of your time. So that's what we're battling, and I really hope that we can start to solve this, because it's going to be hard for parents. It's going to be hard for kids to leave the home and do their laundry and get a job and keep a job and even then like that's before all the struggles of like paying rent and stuff. So you have to like build, you have to prepare them to be an adult and to deal with life. So NotSus is a browser that sort of isolates all of those ideas into an environment for kids. And so basically, I've split this into a learn section that gives them access to like knowledge bases and ways to learn things like factual things or skills or information that are pretty well sourced, and there's no bias. Okay, they get access to these tools if they're curious about anything. So they can search on Kiddle, they can explore Wikipedia, they can ask questions and get factual reasoned responses back from Perplexity, and they get the entire K-12 curriculum from Khan Academy to explore whatever skill they want themselves without tests, whatever they want. Just let them follow their own desires on here, and it should be healthy and organic, and they'll build personality and skills and knowledge and all this. So that's the learn section. And the create section, so far it's just got these tools, but I want to build in an entire suite of tools that parents could choose or kids could choose afterwards. They're all fairly blank canvas tools, and so you get the thing, you learn how to do it, but you have to decide what you want to do with it. I think that's really important, is sort of non-descriptive blank canvas tools. So that they learn the skill and then they get bored, but they have the skill. And so how do they use it? So you can make video games with Scratch. You can code things with Replit. Replit is almost too easy in some ways. It's probably good for learning project management and in general building, but you don't really get under the hood, which I think is important too. You can do that, but it's just too easy and promoted quite highly on Replit. But it's a great coding engine for kids, and they can do a lot of powerful stuff, and it's in the browser. So there are a lot of really great things about it. Tinkercad is for 3D design. It's so intuitive. It's one of the greatest programs to introduce kids to on the computer. Back in the day, I used KidsPix, and I think that reminds me a bit of the creativity get with KidsPix, but it's for 3D design and gets pretty focused, can dive in and spend many hours on a detailed project, and those are really good signs that they have what it takes to like follow what they love, but also complete things and succeed in life and overcome obstacles and all that. So, and they can like think independently. They're less distracted. So that's really good. CapCut is the one that I have for the video editor at the moment. Photopea for the photo editor. Both can be free and you can do quite a lot. And then I just have your typical docs. So you can write, you can create spreadsheets, and you can make slides. But I'm going to add as many powerful tools as I can think of and try and add them for every age. And you'll be able to have a dashboard that allows you to sort of choose the environment for your kids in some ways. The kids will have a dashboard as well where they get to set their goals, keep track of their most recent projects to try and maintain momentum on things, and a history tracker, which on here, looking at your history, should be a really positive experience. So yeah, I think that this is a much healthier environment for kids to play in. It gives them all the things that they need, and so they can just play and use their time positively when they're on the computer and actually utilize and build skills. So that's the idea. I'm going to post these videos of me sort of talking about the ideas, and I'd love to hear from you guys and discuss, because I want to learn from you and develop